Today, TNA fam, I want to talk about how you build wrestlers necessarily or in a necessary way. So, you should only really give a wrestler what it is necessary for them needing to go from wherever they are in the story to the next level. If you're building somebody up or whatever, perhaps you could say, hey, we're giving this wrestler or that wrestler or whatever this win or whatever, because it adds more to the legacy of that event or what have you than it does for that wrestler. It's not really for this wrestler, it's really for building up that championship or building up that event or building up whatever it is, the prestige of these things, to say, hey, you know, we built this guy and he's a big deal and whatnot, that sort of thing. You can do that. You can say, hey, we had a big legend win this Royal Rumble or whatever else it was, and then go on to do big stuff later down the road or whatever it was. But again, mostly, you don't really need to do that with very established wrestlers. Most of the time, you can get to wherever you want to go in storyline, in the matches, in these things, without having to say, let's give this legend, let's give this person, or this like upper main event level wrestler, a big time win like the Royal Rumble or something like that, or Money in the Bank, or whatever it is, like Feast or Fired, Call Your Shot Gauntlet, whatever you want to say, any other thing, like just a random battle royal or whatever it is, anything. Like the main established talent are seemingly going to be able to get title shots whenever they want. So why would we spend time, having an event and having them win, unless it's just like a random TV episode battle royal or something like that? That might be a bit different, but if it's something bigger, if it's on a pay-per-view or whatever, I would tend to say that the younger wrestlers or the less established wrestlers, the guys that haven't really made it to the main event yet, need that more. So it is much more important to say, hey, let's give these younger guys or these newer guys or whatever else it is that opportunity. Let's get them built up and, into those positions. I think WWE is honestly in a really awkward position, but they put themselves in this awkward position where I think that, having two world titles really hurts the output. Yes, it gives like more people more opportunities to do more things, but that's where you should really focus more into your mid-card roles. Like the mid-card roles aren't nearly important enough, and aren't really cared about enough. Like, yes, saying we're like, obviously if you're saying somebody wins the Royal Rumble and gets the chance to main event WrestleMania or whatever, that should obviously be the most important thing. Having an elimination chamber or whatever just to say, hey, somebody else gets a main event or a semi-main event. Yeah, now it is two nights. Like you can sort of say, oh well, let's give somebody a main event for a big reason. But like what would that be? The women are covered because they've got a Royal Rumble now. So it's like, well, why would you have, like, you should have like one night, like, and again, maybe like what they did before with Roman and Rock versus Cody. Who was it? Who was his tag partner? I forget who Cody's tag partner was. I can't even remember, man. But like, yeah, like just having like that big tag team match between them and whatnot was a huge deal. Like, it was massive. And like doing that sort of thing, saying, hey, this is main event night 1 and this is main event night 2, or whatever else it is. So that's one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, that was amazing. Like Cody lost one night, which helped, I guess, sway people to feel like, oh man, maybe he isn't winning, or whatever else it is, and all of this sort of stuff. Um, that gave people that little bit of doubt, or it gave people like, oh, well, if he is winning, maybe The Rock's going to come back and he's going to challenge Cody or whatever, all this sort of stuff. I think that sort of narrative became a bigger narrative later, but whatever. The fact of the matter is, sometimes you are slightly, however, so slightly taking things away from people to be like, no, we are actually giving you things, but we're giving you tangible reasons for things later on, potentially, or whatever else it is. You're teasing the audience to say, hey, well, maybe this will be a thing later down the road. And of course, people feel like, hey, Cody's a big deal right now, or whatever, and The Rock is amazing, is awesome, is all this stuff, whatever it is, but his time to be the guy has passed. Like, he's no longer the guy. He is a legend, and he is in that conversation to be one of the greatest of all time. He's certainly, like, got the mainstream appeal for being one of the, like Mount Rushmores of WWE in some ways, just in the casual fans' perspective mindset. Like, maybe Stone Cold Steve Austin has kind of faded out a little bit because Steve isn't really one to, like, go out of his way so much to be, like, in movies and do all this other stuff or whatever else it is. He's more of just was amazing at the time and was such a phenomenon at the time and whatnot. So I don't know. But again, taking it back to what do some of these guys need, like I said before, like Eddie, I don't feel like he needed that call your shot or the feast or fire briefcase. I don't think he needs it. I don't even think Nick Nemeth needs it. But the thing about it is, sometimes you're saying, well, we're trying to tell it in a different way or tell a different story, and we're trying to harken back to, he had the WWE briefcase, all those years ago. So it's kind of like, like, I get that. But the thing is, again, why are we copying WWE? Or why are we, somewhat making a callback to something that happened in WWE? You know what I mean? Like, I know that's what fans somewhat like in some ways, is some callbacks or whatever else it is, but when you're calling it back and just basically copying and pasting things, it's like, oh, okay, we don't have our own ideas, and we couldn't figure out another way to build up Nick Nemeth and say how he's going to challenge Santana or whatever else it is, and all of this other stuff or whatever, which is something that you could do either way. You could have him involved in this story in another way and have given that call your shot to somebody else. Maybe it was good for Kazarian. Maybe, I don't know. But again, like, to get that belt off Santana so that you could put it back on him, I don't know. And again, I heard the argument of people saying, well, why take the belt off? And this is what I was sort of saying. Why take the belt off Kazarian the night before the pay-per-view? Because the idea for a go-home show to the pay-per-view is to get people to buy into the pay-per-view. You know what I mean? Why are people going to buy, besides like, oh, it's a Texas death match, that's a crazy match, or whatever it is. But besides, like, it's a rematch, why would people really care if they saw that first show? Like, what's on the line for the Elegance brand now that they've won their match against the Inspiration? Are they going to have a rematch? Whatever. What's the angle between them? They're not going to even have a match. Okay, cool, great. That doesn't lead anywhere. Like, their contracts were up, so I guess they had to do it. So, but, like, again, couldn't you have just said, can you at least please come for the next night for, a rematch or something else or whatever it is, just so that we can have that on our pay-per-view and whatnot. But I don't know what went on there, or why it was, or what it was, or anything like that. But again, it is what it is. But again, like a lot of things, he had Lana Del Rey debuting, and maybe she's not a wrestler or whatever. I don't know nowadays. I think she is mostly retired. But yeah, like you had her debut, and then you had Enya Black return. I'm about to say debut, but like whatever. You had her come into the company in a big way, you know. So, but then how did you follow that up? You didn't really. You know, like she wasn't on the pay-per-view. She didn't really do anything there. You know, like if it's the go home show and you're showing me this person is debuting, it's like, oh, okay, great. What, like, immediately the first thing is like, okay, well, what's she gonna do? Because now that you've debuted her, it's like, okay, we have plans for her. You know what I mean? Like, so have her do something on the pay-per-view. You know what I mean? Because fans want to see this new hire do something. And again, book her in a match or book her in an angle, do something with her so that at least you've got, like, even if she just comes out at the end of that knockouts match or whatever else it is, you know, to stare down Laying Lee or something. You know, at least that's something, you know, because at least then you're saying, hey, she was on the show, and like it's obvious what her intentions sort of are in some ways. At least you've got that. You didn't have that. If you had had that, it would have been like at least a little bit better. It wouldn't be perfectly good, but like again, at least it would have been something where it's like, oh, we just didn't put this person on the card or didn't do anything with this person because we didn't have the time or we didn't think of it or whatever else it was. You know, like, why are we hiring these people then? You know what I mean? But anyway, it is very much like giving these things what they need as well, because again, if you're gonna bring somebody in, obviously you have plans for them. But yeah, again, you need to be like, even if it's another jobber match, you know, just to establish her or something like that. It's like, at least she gets something out there. And like, I think, again, I said the pre-show was a lot of these pre-shows, especially for the more, quote, major events, have a lot of preamble. And that's just too much preamble. Way too much preamble for these shows. Like, it's ridiculous. And I understand, like, you might say, oh, well, fans are filing into the arena or whatever else it is. So, what do we, you know, and we want to entertain those fans while they're waiting for the show or whatever else it is. But it's not enough fans to worry about the fact that, you know, the show is about to go on, you know, whatever. Tighten things up. Make it, like, unless you've got a lot of things going on the pre-show and they're worth the time to sort of see. It's like, even so, I say that not a lot of people see the pre-show stuff, but at least if you have stuff on that pre-show, again, people might feel like, oh man, it's worth tuning into, rather than, oh, we're just going to sit here and talk for the full, or most of the full hour, and then we're going to have a couple of matches, or whatever it is. If you, like, yes, you can have some preamble and some discussion, but cut it down, man. Cut it down. Cut it to like 30 minutes at most. Again, you know, like it's too long for what it is. It's way too much for what it is. Unless you're really gonna have some more other things going on. You need more stuff going on in those spots. You can't just be sitting there and listening to these guys preamble on, because, like, again, like, a lot of the fans who come to these shows, they know what's on the card, so they know what to expect. And, like, just hearing whoever say, hey, this is my prediction, or this is my prediction, or whatever, is, like, a little bit, and it is a little bit like, well, how about instead of, like, having them, you know, just say this, you know, while there's nothing else going on, have some sort of match going on, and have them basically do some variant of commentary. I don't know whether they can handle that, but I think just having Tom Hannafin and having Ray Walt and having that sort of thing, or having LaGreca, or having somebody else, or Bubba, or whoever come on and while they're doing some of their preamble, because they do preamble anyway, for these shows, just to come on and say, hey, we've got a guest, commentator here at the desk as we run down the, Genesis, rah, rah. So this is what we're going to see. And then you say, oh, that'll be a hell of a fight, or whatever. Dave, what do you have to say about that? Oh, yeah, it's a hell of a fight. Mike Santana, this, whatever. Has he got it tonight? I'm thinking yes, whatever. It's not so much as saying, oh, what do you predict, or whatever. It is saying, yes, what do you predict, but it's more like the headlines of saying, can he get it done? Whatever. All that stuff. Tonight is night, or is he going home, to whatever, empty-handed to his daughter again, he's got to have that, burn in the back of his mind, those are the things that those people need more. They need more of that, not just preamble, but yes, you're going through the stakes in some ways, but just formatting it a little bit different, instead of just having Gia Miller. You could have Gia Miller involved, but just she could do so many other things, so it's well, why is she doing this, or whatever, so it's just make it about the things that people need to care about. Right, we've got Dave here to do a prediction or do whatever on the pre-show, and then maybe we're going to have them come out for the main event, or whatever else it is, to predict the main event. The main person is obviously Dave. So again, saying, hey, why are we bothering bringing in these other people to say, oh, this is my prediction, this, whatever it is. Even just having Dave be there to say, this is my prediction, or this is what I think, or whatever it is. I don't know, I just think that it would be a little bit better to, and again, cut out some of these other things, cut out the entrances of some of these things, like them coming back out before the main event. Just have him there at the booth being now we are joined by Dave again to say, hey, about the main event, and then he's going to wander off, after you've done that another quote preamble, tonight Texas death match, tonight this, that, whatever it is, after tonight on Busted Open Radio, we'll be discussing, this match and how this night went, and and Tennessee has been a great crowd tonight for TNA, and this and that, whatever it is. And even saying something even if it's not a record, whatever it is. I know that, sometimes they like to be we broke a record, or whatever. But at least saying the attendance too, or something like that, anything like that as well, can be something useful, can be something oh yeah, we packed some Hoosiers in here, whatever it is. But again, getting to saying, hey, concision. We need to focus in on the few things that we really need to focus in on for each individual thing, rather than just saying, we have all this preamble stuff, but maybe, yes, you could say, the two matches that we have, both of them kind of want 10-15 minutes-ish, especially with entrances or whatever else it is. So we want a little bit more than half an hour, or whatever else it is. I don't know. I don't know whether you can do a bit over half an hour, or whether you have to go to a full hour sometimes on these things, because it does feel like if you plan it out and if you say, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to have this stuff on early or whatever, we're going to have we have to fit something else in. We need another 15 to 20 minute match, in here, 2, 4, 6, like that's pretty close to a full hour's worth of wrestling. 15 minutes here, 15 minutes there, whatever it is, and then another 15 minutes, like 3 solid, opening-ish matches, like if you're going to go for a full hour, and then, say, having a little bit of preamble here, having a little bit of preamble there. I really prefer it when they just have, the commentary team going over a few things, whatnot, between the matches or whatever, and things like that. You start and say, welcome to this thing, da-da-da-da. Tonight we present Genesis or whatever. This is the countdown to Genesis, whatever. And then you say, maybe we open with a small little, quick little thing, an opening package of some sort, which normally they do. It doesn't have to be about like the actual matches or whatever. It can just be like one of those cold open things of like, sacrifice is the name to which we give what we must, lose to gain something. Whatever it is, all that stuff. They go in depth onto these things. They bring out a subject and they say, okay, cool, we've got to talk about what is sacrifice and what is these men willing to give up to gain the immortal glory, or whatever, like what I mean, like all those things that they say in these like cold opens. We were once forgotten, but now we will never be lost again to history. Whatever, again, all that stuff. Just having like this is the theme of tonight somewhat as well, not just, it's Sunday night, here we go, and we don't have a cold open of sorts for it, besides just, hey, this is the city shot or whatever else it is, and TNA is here for Under Siege. This is the countdown to Under Siege, whatever it is, and again, if you're gonna have Dave LaGreca or whoever else it is, whatever else it is, unless it's like a celebrity in the crowd or whatever else it is, maybe that's a little bit different. But again, like, okay, he's gonna come here to talk. Instead of having him on the ramp and talking with Tommy Dreamer and all these other, or whatever else it is, it's like, put him on commentary. Like, you're gonna do the preamble throughout the show, of some of these things. Just have a quick preamble of most of the matches. You're gonna have at like the very end of like your pre-show or your whatever countdown show, buy-in show, whatever it is. Again, okay, this is the sort of stuff you want to see on the main show. You've seen some good stuff on the pre-show, whatever you want to call it. Again, and here's Dave to hype it up, help hype it up, or help discuss some of the things that he thinks about, like this or that, or Bubba, or whoever it is. I don't care. But again, just make it like a little bit less clunky, because it's just so clunky and takes so goddamn long to do these things 2 or 3 or 4 times, and there's nothing else going on. It's like, and I know there's only a handful of people sort of in the arena at that time, but that's why, like, you start saying, okay, we've just got to let people in. We've just got to let them in a little bit earlier, because they need to be able to get to their seats and get to watching the action. And, again, we need to put more emphasis on the pre-show of saying, hey, this is something that people should want to come and see, not a piss break match or piss break stuff that people will just be like, oh, well, whatever, it's just pre-show stuff that no one cares about, or basically no one cares about, or whatever. That's why people don't come to these things sometimes. It's like, whatever, it's pre-show stuff, so it's just warm up the crowd matches or whatever else it is or whatnot. Or matches that didn't quite get enough time or whatever else it is, or whatever story on TV or whatever else it is. So again, that's why it's like, oh man, it always feels bad when something gets on there in some ways, because it's like, oh, well, they don't know what to do with this person or this thing or whatever else it is. So again, yeah, I don't know. But yeah, like I like the fact that they gave Trey like an upgraded chance, because like I thought when he won the one of the Feast of Fired, and he revealed it being like it's the international title, I was like, oh, I'm surprised, because I thought he'd get an X Division title opportunity. And not to say that the X Division is less prestigious, but in a lot of people's minds it is, because it's more of a quote-unquote opening card title sort of thing, whereas the international title is at least seen more as a mid-card to upper mid-card title in some ways. Like, I don't know. It really isn't in many ways, but in some ways it certainly is. But yeah, it's just because it's been only recently established in some ways. So if it had been around for like 20 years or whatever else it is, and had a long lineage, or if you had said, hey, we're going to give it extra lineage, we're going to put, it's going to have the lineage of the old Legends title, plus this title, plus that title, plus whatever other titles that we used to have that are no longer active, but now it's going to have the lineage of all those titles. Now it'll feel a little bit more like, okay, now we have something going for it. Now it has a long lineage of wrestlers and performers and things like that you can say, oh yes, look back at and say, hey, this title was named a different thing, and now it's this, or whatever it was, back when it was the Legend title, AJ Styles and this person and that person, Booker T and so on and so forth held this belt, or a version of this belt, or whatever it is. Again, like, just making it a little bit more prestigious, making it a little bit more relevant, saying, hey, this, giving, and again, that's the same thing, like, not just for wrestlers sometimes, or a show sometimes, or not just like a TV episode, but a PLE or pay-per-view, or whatever you want to call it. Again, those need certain things, like, it's not just what you give wrestlers sometimes, it's what you give to each event. If you've got 2 or 3, maybe 4 or 5 things on your show that have a decent build or have a decent story, I actually think like the First Class stuff actually had a decent story behind it. But the problem was they basically never got any friggin' TV time, and it was like, bro, that sucks for them. Once they get on pay-per-view, it was like, what's this feud about? Because it had all been basically on the extras stuff and whatnot. No one had really, like, in the arena, yeah, sure, people knew it. But, like, again, like, when you're watching the broadcast, you don't get to see a whole lot of it. You just get to see the highlights or the little clips of it or whatever. If you don't see it build up week to week, whatever else it is, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, now we have to see what this is all about, like, and we haven't really got a lot of context for it, and we haven't got a lot of connection to it, because, it hasn't been shown on TV again. So it's like, those things need their TV time too, and the main event guys, they don't need, well, they need some, but again, you don't need a lot. Sometimes you can do a little with a lot, you know what I mean? And like I said, with the upcoming show, which I think it's tomorrow, yes, tomorrow. Maybe I should wait a little bit for that. But like, again, they haven't announced shit. So it's like, you're not doing yourself any favors. And I know maybe you might be like, oh, well, the shows do whatever they do. but you haven't had a single, like, one of these B shows, so to speak, on this new network. So it could have done a whole lot better if you had have said, okay, what's our main event, or what's our, at least our semi-main event, or what's something to advertise this freaking show. Because again, people don't buy tickets just because there's an event happening. They buy tickets because they know, okay, what am I going to see? What's the rivalries? What's the feuds? What's the title matches? And I say this especially for, like, people who have the titles. They need way more time to sort of be on TV and to get their stories across, week to week, month to month, whatever it is, so that, again, when you get to the pay-per-view or whatever it is, and you're going to see these guys throw down or whatever else it is, it's like, okay, we've seen this building for weeks. Who's going to win? Who's going to lose? What's going to happen? Da-da-da, whatever. How is these guys going to win? Whatever else it is. Or are they going to win? Or whatever it is. Again, how can, who's our favorite? Da-da-da-da, whatever it is. Again, who do we like? Who do we not like? And again, the crowd shouldn't, like, obviously the crowd should instigate to say, hey, this is who we want, but the crowd shouldn't have to drag you to saying, all right, we'll put the belt on this person now, or whatever else it is, and get there. But again, like, sometimes you do have to say, there is a reason that we're doing this, and I understand that, but it has to be clear. No, this is the direction that we're going, and they have done that several times. But again, like, they've also done a few things where it's like, well, why did we do this? Why did we do that? Or what was this for? And again, like, if you, like, not to say that TNA's the place of like opportunity, because it is in some ways, but like, again, there's people that are on the roster that are just kind of there doing nothing, because, like, there isn't any creative plans for them right now, but there should be, because it's like, hey, Mike Santana needs opponents, and he needs them quickly, so you need to build up some of these heels. You need to build up, like, you're building up, somewhat building up at least, like, AJ Francis, and you're somewhat building up Mustafa Ali, and you've got Nick Nemeth there, and you've just had Kazarian there, and you could still have him there and doing stuff or whatever. You've kind of got Eric Young there, obviously, as well. So again, you've got some talent there, but, like, again, like, and now you're being like, with Eric, well, we don't know what else to do with you. We kind of want to give you a main event push, but, like, we'll do it in the way of saying, okay, you get an X Division title opportunity, here you go, whatever. You obviously probably won't win, but like it's come to that where it's like, we don't have really anyone else in that X Division, especially heels, that Leon can go up against. So I guess Eric Young, now that we basically don't have anyone else, okay, you're going up against Leon, So again, that's what the division needs. So not just what a show or whatever, or a wrestler or whatever needs, it's what the division needs, and then what the show needs. It's like, the show needs you to have a compelling babyface for people to rally behind, and they need heels for them to be, against, and being like, okay, who is this guy gonna have to go through? How's he gonna go through them? How's he gonna retain? How's he gonna do it? We want to see Santana, or somebody else is starting to break out, so we kind of want to see them. Okay, cool, but then what's Mike Santana gonna do when that person has the belt? Or are they gonna feud with somebody else, or whatever else it is? Especially if it's like, oh man, he's already feuded with a bunch of these people, so now what's he gonna do? Like, that's what becomes, like, difficult sometimes, being like, you have somebody on your roster for a long period of time, or a longer period of time. It starts becoming like, well, he's faced basically everyone on this roster, and either lost or won against everyone on this roster. So it's like, well, now what do we do? Now we either need to bring somebody new in for him to face, or we need to say, okay, go away, come back, or, you've got to turn heel, or you've got to turn babyface, or something. You've got to change so that, we can set you up against some of the same opponents or whatever, but the story is different because the relationships are flipped or whatever else it is. So, again, it's not just your weekly, monthly, yearly. It's your long term. These things that need these different elements, and everything needs something different. You know what I mean? Like the younger guys or the less well known guys, the up and coming guys need more support to say, okay, let's build you up, let's make you a big deal so that, people are like, holy shit, this Bear Bronson guy, he's a big deal. Maybe he'll be a world champion soon, or whatever else it is, and he'll be a decent world champion, or whatever it is. Or whatever. Here comes Leon Slater, young Leon Slater. What's he going to do? Is he going to, break through into the world title division? How's he going to do that? What's he going to have to overcome? Whatever it is, all these things. Can he really do it? Whatever it is, and that sort of thing. So again, like, you've got so many elements that you need to have in these things. Same for the women. Like, it feels very much like we're at a state of, we just don't know what we're doing. We don't, like, it doesn't feel like we know where we're going. Who's going to challenge who, why, when, where, or who's going to be the champion. Like, it's fine to have lots of different options, but you've got to be like, okay, this person is our clear breadwinner, so to speak. This person's shifting the most tickets. This person's shifting the most merchandise. This person's out there on social media. This person's out there doing the radio shows. This person's, out there, getting their face out there, doing the things, doing the interviews, doing all the stuff to sell tickets, to gain interest, saying that, being as professional as possible, but saying the things to get people to be like, oh, well, maybe we should tune into this shit, like, that's what you've got to do. You can't just be a character on a show that exists. You've got to be saying, if I really want to be the top person, I've got to go out of my way. And that's why I say, like, again, wrestlers need to be like, what's my number one promotion? Well, my number one promotion is TNA. That's the most, like, visible promotion that I'm in right now. Like, if I was in AEW, that would be the most visible promotion. If I was in WWE, then that would be the most visible. All these other indie shows or other house shows or other things that you're doing, like, how many times do people even ask about those shows or ask you about those sorts of things? Very rarely, if ever. So again, like, you're, like, maybe New Japan, maybe, like, if you're there and that's the main promotion or whatever, you might get asked about that, but it is very much like, I guess, very North American focused, unfortunately, as well, in many ways. But again, if you were going out and saying, hey, I work for them and this and that, this is the upcoming show, and I'm not just here to talk about this, I'm here to get myself out there and to, do Chris Van Vliet. You've got to do 1,000 interviews that are all basically the same interview, effectively. But again, like, it's not just saying, hey, I'll get a little bit of extra money in my pocket or whatever else it is. It's saying, hey, I'm getting my face out there, I'm getting my name out there, I'm getting, my story out there, da-da-da-da-da-da. So, and that's helping me, that's helping the company, I need to get on TV, even, like, local TV, I need to get on local radio, whatever it is. I need to get myself out there so that, again, when I'm, when people are coming to the arenas or whatever else it is, they've heard of me, whatever it is, that helps me, that helps the company, whatever it is. Because again, if I'm not going out there and trying to sell, then it's like, or sell tickets or sell myself or sell whatever, then again, it's like, well, how are these people ever going to see what I do? Yes, like, again, indies are a lot different. House shows are a lot different. All this other stuff is a lot different because if people know that, hey, WWE's coming to town with a house show, whatever it is, this or that, it's like, okay, cool, great. I'm going to go see that or whatever it is. But if hey, Monday Night Raw is coming, wow, that's a lot more of a different story. And then the pay-per-view's even more of a different story. So again, that's why when you see like a house show, there's maybe a couple hundred whatever people in there, but it doesn't matter because again, it's a house show that's non-televised and is just for people to work matches, to be in front of the crowds and all of that sort of stuff and get experience and reps and things like that, whatever it is. When it's Raw, then it's a little bit more important. When it's a pay-per-view, then it's even more important. When it's a major pay-per-view, then it's even more important. Again, and like, you just had one of your most major pay-per-views in the year to an extent. Like, the beginning of the year is always like a fairly major thing. They just had WWE's Royal Rumble recently. And it looks like no one from TNA went over to do anything. So, like, and I know some people would be like, oh, if somebody went over from TNA, then is that like WWE being like, yeah, we'll showcase your guy because, hey, we're in partnership and whatever, and it'll be good for you, and it'll expose this guy to more people, and it'll help you draw more tickets and draw more views and all of this? Or is it WWE being like, hey, well, we're really interested in this talent and we'd like them under our books and things like that, and effectively trying to poach them? So there's always that unfortunate like side of these things of like it being like, oh man, well, that just means that they're interested in them, or seemingly whatever it is. They're not interested in, oh yeah, whatever, they're not just playing nice to be like, oh, let's invite this person or that person or whatever. It's a way of them being like, oh, well, we'll see if they're interested in coming to WWE or whatever, and we'll frame it like this or whatever, hey, if you come to work for us, this is what you can expect type thing, but obviously that doesn't really happen, things happen and things change, and it's a weird set of circumstances, sometimes when it's like, oh, we had all these plans, but what are they now? Like, whatever. So again, yes, injuries and all those different things or whatever else it is get in the way of these things, but again, it's like, you need to know, okay, Eddie Edwards doesn't need this, or whoever it is, the established talent don't need this sort of thing where it's like we give them some opportunity that they could get an opportunity for the world title at almost any time anyway. So why would we give them that sort of opportunity, like, so to speak, in a briefcase, so to speak? We should give it to the younger guys that haven't been built up to that point, so that we can say, okay, let's build up this person, that person, whoever it is, whatever it is, and like they're the future, they're like whatever it is, and like the quarter shot, Money in the Bank, whatever, Feast or Fired, whatever, those things are often harder to work with because it's like, it's not a title, so to speak, but it almost occupies the same space that a title sort of does. And like, I think one of the most interesting things sometimes about like these sorts of opportunities is the idea of saying, hey, let's have like it be like a title. Let's defend it like a title. Let's have other times and opportunities for people to be like, oh, I'm just going to win that, or whatever it is. and things like that. But it's really tough because, again, like, in some ways it's like, what are we doing with this, like, type thing or whatever. Why like, if you can cash it in at any time, like, it's always like that question of like, why cash it in? Why not cash it in now? Why not cash it in now? Or why not, whatever it is. It's always that like, not question mark, but it's like, there's that feeling of like, well, why hasn't it happened, or whatever it is, in some regards. Because, again, like, that's what you've got to have. You've got to have that baby face, again, fighting it off or whatever else it is when it makes sense, or whatever it is. So, again, you've got to have these things to be like, these guys are opportunists, whatever else it is. Are they going to get their opportunity? Who knows? That's the thing. Like, and at a certain point, like I said before, it's like, people, like, I understand why people want to book these things and whatnot, because it's the jeopardy of the situation or whatever else it is. I get that. That's like some point of modern storytelling and things like that, of being like, you don't know when this will happen. You've got to pay attention all the time. That's a great little thing, because, again, it's like, well, I think you should in some ways replace like some of the titles, like maybe the international title, with just saying, hey, we have anytime the Call Your Shot or the Feast or Fire is cashed in, okay, after that, a couple months, whatever, here it is again. Or here's the same sort of thing again. So that it keeps people engaged. And I think, like, having two of those is a lot, especially right now. That's what's happening. So that's another reason to say, is this what is needed? You know what I mean? Like, especially when you have both of them, both the Call Your Shot type things at any time on people that are already very established wrestlers, performers in the company. It's like, oh, okay, well, one of them kind of needed, and now you've got another one that is like, well, that's really kind of not needed. You could have just said that Eddie gets a big win somewhere or somehow, whatever else it is, and then say, okay, I'm coming for you, Santana. You don't know when it's gonna be or whatever it is, but I'm coming for you or whatever. So again, like, and yes, like I say, like, the Call Your Shot, these things, they work better on heels, because it's like, they will and they do call their shot at any time, and like, that works better for a narrative purpose than just saying, I will challenge you Tuesday at this place at this time, or people don't want that. In many ways, people want to be surprised, they want to be shocked, they want to have to tune in some ways, of saying, is Dolph going to cash it in? Is this person going to cash that in? Are they going to do this? Or is it tonight? When is it? Whatever. All that stuff. So that's the hook that you're trying to bait. You know what I mean? So again, like, and it's, like I said, it's much better when you've got like these younger guys that get those opportunities to be like, I can do this at any time. I can do it at any time. When it's an established guy, it's like, you could get a title match any day of the week or any month of the year or whatever it is. So it doesn't really give anything to you unless it's something that, again, is defended, where it's like Eddie won it, but then someone else beat him for it. Or you said, oh, okay, Bear Bronson, he betrayed Eddie or something like that, or whatever, like in the Vision or whatever it was, where Breaker there, he speared Rollins, and then he broke out as a single star or whatever, or you were trying to break him out as a single star or whatever. So now, and like, WWE is just as bad, like, if not worse in some ways right now. It's like, you've got like a bunch, like, well, besides Cody right now, I guess, but besides like that, it's like, wow, you've got so many of these older main event like, guys, and even Cody's like getting on there. So again, it's like, you know, you're still relying on Roman Reigns. You're still relying on, on Seth Rollins. You're still relying on that old guard. You're still relying on CM Punk. You're still relying on those guys. Yes, they can be really good and really great, and they can have a lot of, same thing. Like, you look at Eric Young, you look at Kazarian, you look at some of these, like, big names that TNA's got. They're still reliant on them to an extent, but again, they shouldn't be, like, always be that thing where it's like, oh, well, this is our default option or whatever it is. We need to build some more default options. We need to build new default options. Why isn't this person getting more of a push? We need more new fresh blood, or we need to say, okay, let's partner this person with somebody like that, with Eric Young, like Mace Warner with Eric Young, or something like that. Or have him feud with Warner, or something like that. Again, start saying, okay, how are we going to do something with these guys, or something else, whatever it is, again, or whoever it is. So again, and have it, like, I know what's happening with Steve Backlund, but, like, man, that it really sucks that he's no longer. It seems like he's no longer with the company. So you never know. Like, Trey, he came back pretty quickly. You never know, and he could be the hometown mercenary or something. We could have the phenomenal hometown man or something like that. I don't know. Just just putting things out there or whatever, or El Fenomeno Americano or something. I don't know, just like little things like that. So I don't know, like, there's always options that you could always use. So I don't know. But yeah, guys, I know you guys are very smart and you know all these things, but I've got to discuss these things for the people that don't know these things, and for my own self, because I'm completely obsessed with talking about wrestling. So what can I do? Plus, I don't know whether you've guys noticed this, but there's a lot of social media and other sorts of silencing going on out there, and we don't stand for that here. We will not be silenced, even if this is a silly podcast or whatever else it is on a silly wrestling topic. We do not stand for anyone being silenced. We will not go for that. Those people can shove it up their rear ends, and we will continue to fight the good fight as much as possible, even by just presenting this silly wrestling podcast that, a handful of people listen to sometimes, or whatever. It is just for fun or whatever. But sometimes we've got to make some of these statements and say, hey, this is outlined in the sand, and we will not let you cross that line in the sand, because we know where that leads to. That leads to censorship and whatnot and all of this other stuff, and basically you can't say anything anymore and whatnot. And I know that there'll be some people saying, oh, it's all these leftists or whatever. No, it's actually all these fascist right-wingers. So tell the people on the Epstein list to go get fucked, effectively, as well. But yeah, fuck ICE as well, guys. Fuck ICE. But seriously, yeah, that is where we're at. We're not going to go anywhere, hopefully at least. And if they try to silence us, you'll know what happened. Because, hey, we won't stop saying fuck ICE, or, against this Zionist regime and whatnot and all that other stuff. So, yeah, we will try to fight the good fight as much as what we can here and there. But anyway, guys, either way, I hope you have enjoyed it, and I hope that you will join me again in another one.